loves to go to a Q&A and wing it.
Wing it. All right, so who's having a good time here at Time Lord Fest? All right, when I yell banana, you yell banana, okay? Banana! Banana! You didn't do a good job doing that. Try harder, do better yourself. All right, once again, banana! Banana! Good job! That was the panel. Thanks, Tony, for coming.
Hey, no problem. That was great.
That was really good, man. Thanks. All right, we have with us a special guest today. We have actor, convention runner. What else are you? Actor, convention runner? Are you a writer?
I am a writer.
Well, let's start there with Mr. Tony Gowell. What do you write?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I write a bi-weekly column for Dated Magazine. It's Atlanta's premier GLBT magazine that goes out for free in the community every week. So I write a column called Obsessed, with Tony Gowell.
Ooh, what are the
exciting things?
What have you written about recently?
My last column was in honor of Gay Pride. National Coming Out Day is October 11th.
Mm-hmm.
So Atlanta kind of goes against the mold. For those of you that may not know, the whole idea of a Gay Pride celebration is in honor of the Stonewall riots that happened in 1969, happened in June in New York. And so a lot of the country that celebrates Pride in whatever way try to fit it around June, around that weekend. Well, the city of Atlanta, always a little bit different. They moved it over to National Coming Out Day in October, and I think a lot of it was politically, when you're trying to line up headlining acts, you're competing against every major city in the United States, and what better way than to just move it out of the month of June? You can get anybody that you want. Like right now, tonight, or last night, Sandra Bernhard was there doing a stand-up show. We had Leah DeLory from Orange is the New Black was our Grand Marshal in our parade last weekend.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Big Boo. Anybody watch Orange is the New Black? It's a fantastic show. Oh my God, it's so good. So Big Boo was our Grand Marshal for Dated Atlanta magazine. So she led our big truck of you know, what people would expect to see in a gay pride parade was there. For the kids out there, I'm going to be PG.
Well, has the Atlanta community and the GBLT community there helped influence the direction of your career as an actor?
Yes.
How so?
My acting coach, a wonderful man, his name is Kent Cathcart, was gay, and he was an original zombie in Night of the Living Dead. So as an homage to him, he passed away in 2005. And as an homage to him, I've always kind of had it in my head that I wanted to be a zombie in something. So it's kind of a thank you, because that was his first gig, and he got me my first gig. I'm sure all of you have at the top of your movie list, Ernest Goes to Camp. Well, that was my first film. That tells you how old I am.
It's a really great film.
Yeah, it really is. Lots of awards were taken to that movie. But he got me my first job, and he was a great acting coach. He allowed me to audition in other films, like Man in the Moon, not the one based off of Andy Kaufman's life, but the one that Reese Witherspoon did, the first movie that anybody ever noticed her in. And we both auditioned for the same film. She clearly got a part in it and did okay for herself. I did not. And that's okay, but he was her acting coach as well. So she went on to win an Academy Award, and she won her Academy Award before he passed. So that's always, you know, something that...
Have you met her?
Oh yeah, I went to school with her.
Have you done work with her afterwards?
No.
What was she like?
We were in high school together, so I mean, we just did, you know,
Did you
high school stuff.
know her casually or just...
It was very casual. We just happened to be in the same type of classes together, and when her parents got more affluent with their careers, because they're like doctors, they pulled her out of public high school, which is where I went. And so we drifted apart. She'd already started getting movie roles, but it was just kind of cool to know that I knew somebody back when. And no matter where you go in life, in your careers, it's always cool to know that one person that made it big. Regardless of whether how successful you get, there's always going to be that person that you want to kind of keep tabs on because you knew there was something about them. And I knew that girl had something.
There's something truly dear about her.
Oh my God, Reese is fantastic. She was older than her age.
Really?
She's an old soul. She's fantastic.
It's so rare to hear somebody who, when somebody that you know succeeds, it's so easy to be resentful and go like, oh, they succeeded, but they cheated on their way in, or they're not that talented. But
It's human nature.
yeah, it's human nature. But actually having pride that your friend did well, that's very noble, Tony.
Yeah, thank you. I'm filled more with pride with someone else that I encountered in my high school years. I actually went camping with this young lady's family. You may have heard of a young actress. She's not so young anymore. It was Drew Barrymore.
Ooh.
Yeah. So we hung out together one summer when our families were camping together at a rather posh resort in Michigan, on Lake Michigan. And I was helping her go over the script for a movie that she did right when she got out of rehab. And she was just such an amazing amount of energy. And I forgot what was the movie that she did, where there was the two guys set in the desert, and she's in love with the one, and the bad guy is the one that everybody thinks is like this killer in the town. She was like 16 when she did it, 15, 16. Does anybody remember what it was called? I mean, it wasn't a very successful movie, but this is pre her resurgence. This was like the first thing she did coming out of rehab. So being able to sit there and help her go through the script and then see that she went on to do quite well for herself, clearly. In fact, she had the most pride because she came from a hard place.
And she overcame that obstacle.
Absolutely, absolutely. Drugs are a terrible thing, don't do them.
Have you had, if it's not too personal, any great obstacles in your life as an actor that you had to overcome to become, well, you're quite a well-known actor now. You've been in so many things. What are some of the hurdles you had to jump over?
Well, the hurdle is always that I'm on a short list in the Southern filming community. Oh, Far From Home. Thank you. This is my assistant Lou, everyone. He's awesome. He keeps me on track. Far From Home, that was the name of the movie. Thank you. For an actor that's openly gay, I'm married. I've been with my partner for 19 years. I have a son who is not gay and is doing quite well for himself. Are you guys fans of The Walking Dead? My son Alex was the walker that ate Lori in the boiler room in season 3. Yeah, he landed the cover of Entertainment Weekly.
And as a zombie, didn't you eat somebody quite famous on the show? I thought you ate somebody.
Well, I've eaten lots of famous people. I'm kidding.
I just walked right into that.
That was so easy.
No.
Like Sunday morning. On the film Zombieland, that's where I got my start. After what I was mentioning, that Kent Cathcart, my acting coach, when he passed, that always just kind of ran around in my head that I wanted to be a zombie someday. And Ruben Fleischer, who had known kind of in the fringe music industry, he did some music videos or whatever, he landed the gig to direct Zombieland. So I connected with him, and I think it was like actually on Facebook. We were just kind of messaging back and forth, and I was like, hey, I saw that you're doing some kind of Zombieland gig. Can I be a zombie in your movie? He was like, sure. That's how I got up to be a zombie. Not kidding, it was a Facebook message. So he put me in contact with the casting agency, and the casting agency, because it was through the director of the film, thought that I was somebody important, so I had my own trailer and everything. It was kind of funny, actually. So I was really just a glorified background extra that just happened to have connections with production, so they just treated me better, and I thought that was the way all film sets should be. Because I had transitioned from a child actor, children get a lot more attention because there's so much more expense if things go wrong when there are minors involved. So just translating into like an adult film career, I just thought, oh, everybody gets a trailer and everybody gets their own personal assistant on the set. That's not true. So working on Zombieland, they pulled a girl out that was supposed to be attacked and eaten. The Asian girl that shoots the meter maid in the scene Double Tap. Remember that? She knew that her leg was going to be ripped off and that we were going to be eating on her. And there's a certain amount of comfort in knowing that if there's going to be a man below the waist eating you, that a gay man might fit the bill better. So I got picked to be in that scene because of how intimate it really was. Of course, the scene plays for laughs and it's grotesque, but when you have total strangers that are like touching you in places that maybe you don't want to be touched, I got picked for that scene just for being, because I was like, hey girl, having one of those moments off to the side. She's like, I'll take that one. I'll take that zombie right there. He gets to eat me.
So, when you're playing a zombie, you've done it quite a few times now.
Yes, I did a lot of green screen work for the movie Zombieland. I had the privilege of being put on the poster. So to be on a movie poster, that's huge, right? I'm itty bitty. Everybody thinks I'm the big fat guy in the front that gets chased across the football field. That's my friend Nathan, that's not me. So, but I was zombie in the poster, and then I got to do some green screen add-in work, and then towards the end of the film, when the girls were on the amusement park ride, and they're trying to line up a shot with the control box so that they don't keep sinking towards the zombies. I was one of the zombies at the control box, so those were my big scenes in Zombieland.
Well, what kind of mindset do you have to be in? How do you prepare for that role? How do you truly make yourself mindless yet still minding what you're doing?
As an actor, where I've done scripted work that didn't include special effect makeup or extreme costuming like what a monster like a zombie would wear, it's a different mindset, because a lot of the stuff that I did with Zombieland was in either actual elements where it was raining, or it was all green screen work. But the moment, and any of you that have ever cosplayed or dressed up in costume for any event, there's almost like an internal switch where you kind of hide behind that persona that you're putting on. Whenever everybody dresses up, it's just easier to become that character. So once all the grotesque has been done, and you're dripping all kinds of goo and ichor, and it's just actually smells very tropical and fruity, believe it or not. But when you're dripping with all that disgusting makeup and you're on all kinds of gross clothes, it's easier to become more of that character because you've surrounded yourself completely. And everybody you're working with is serving that same goal, which is very different than in a scripted scene. Like your scene with me in a television show, your goal will be very different than my goal, but when you're in a sea of zombies, our goal is to just get through the scene and eat as many people as we can, so it becomes easier. So yeah, it's a little different, but the aid of all the makeup and special effects just makes the transition easier. You feel like a better person. To flip that, it's more difficult when people were like, hey, can you show me how to walk like a zombie? It's more difficult for me as Tony Gowell to want to stand up in front of a group of people and walk like a zombie because I'm not ready to be a zombie because I don't have all the outer look ready. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you have a lot of experience being an actor. Don't you cast actors?
I have. In between working on The Walking Dead, I worked on the show for 2 years across 9 episodes. I actually worked with various casting agencies in the city of Atlanta. So I've worked on hit shows like Necessary Roughness for the USA Network. Crickets.
It's my favorite. I'm holding a con for that next weekend.
Exactly, that'll be great. And then I did even better. I've got one even better. I did all of the casting on a television show called Single Ladies, season 2 for VH1. There you go. There's your winner right there.
VH1's still in the air.
Yeah. Then I cast fun projects before Dragon Con, which is the convention that I work for all year round. Before they picked me up as a full-time employee, the last movie that I did casting for was a little tiny movie called Hunger Games Catching Fire. So I did all the casting for that movie.
All of the casting?
Not all the principals, just all the background.
That's fun.
It's 2 different, when you think of casting, you have your principal casting and you have your background casting, 2 totally different departments. My people don't talk, their people do.
That's interesting.
If my people talk, they're all of a sudden elevated to principal casting.
Well, so do you look for a certain look so that it generates a mood for the scene and so forth?
Absolutely. You have a question.
Did you cast for the backgrounds, did you cast the unnamed tribute people?
Yeah, let me tell you, it's super awful to cast skinny people in Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta sits in the South. Southern people love to eat. Raise your hand if you think you're overweight. Yeah. So casting skinny people like in the Hunger Games, like the District 9, it's a nightmare. Casting The Walking Dead. I am truly the biggest actor they've ever hired to be a zombie on the television show The Walking Dead. And I weigh 210 pounds. I have a 34-inch waist. Well, I am hardly obese. I mean, I'm clearly overweight. I love to eat. But I am an average size guy. I am the biggest person they've had on the show. Anytime you saw anybody bigger, they were in a fat suit. That well zombie, skinny guy in a fat suit. My son, little skinny, in a fat suit. True story.
Well, I thought we'd have an interesting activity. Since you have a background in casting, why don't we have a few people come up and tell us in casting fire, where did you cast them and in what scene?
Okay, casting fire. Okay, we can ask
So,
fire.
sir, both of you two are volunteering.
Yes, ladies, step forward.
Right there,
Volunteers
the
trivia.
fellow right in the back, they volunteer tribute. The one there, and one more. That young lad right there.
Yeah, come here. Oh, you're the skinny one. Come on.
Be careful of this tripod.
One should always be careful of someone else's trip.
When in Rome, do a Rome.
All right, ladies. Okay, so because you have longer hair, thinking the Capitol would be a lot of fun because we can do. Yeah, people with long. Oh yeah, especially you. Would you be opposed to temporary colors being put in your hair? Like blues and grays or whatever. So the Capitol, people that had long hair, they could put ornaments and do crazy hairstyles. And they have like spray colors, so of course it washes out, but it's a total mess to get out. So yeah, that would be a question that maybe I would answer if you were fitting the look and I was looking to cast some of the Capitol people. Would you be against people putting prosthetic decorations or anything on your face? Okay, cool, excellent. So those would be questions that I would ask you because once you got to set, you didn't get to change your mind. You would be set. You're gonna have little stones glued to your face and you're gonna love it for 18 hours.
Are there certain
Did you hear that? 18 hours, kids. It's not a, oh, let's just jump right in there, film that scene real quick and go home.
Is that sometimes a trick question when you ask, would you be opposed to having sequins glued to you? You actually want them to say no. Is there any reason for that?
No, because if I didn't want them,
Okay.
I wouldn't talk to them.
Gotcha.
I would say, thank you so much for your information. If we have something for you, we'll be happy to contact you.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
That's really interesting.
Okay, for the fourth movie, feel free to call us.
Oh, I'm out of casting. I'm out of that rat race. Ooh, I'm done.
Well, this is really fascinating. I've never heard anything about the casting process, so this is quite a bit of interesting behind the scenes.
Yeah,
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. Yes.
sir. All right. So what size pants do you wear?
32.
32?
Yeah.
Would you be opposed to having a shielded mask around your head where you would have a difficult time seeing? You wouldn't have to walk, you would stand very still. Would you be opposed to being a peacekeeper?
No, I would not.
So if you fit, because a lot of times whenever we're casting, we have wardrobe notes, and they say, congratulations, whenever you're casting for these roles of the peacekeepers, this is what size you can hire. There's always somebody that they want that somehow they miraculously piece together a size 27-inch man's waist outfit, and I'm like, really? I think I'm gonna find that anywhere in Atlanta? Okay. So, like, I would ask for different people, depending on what I was casting for the day, if they're opposed to things like, those peacekeeper masks, you can't really see through them. So, people that are claustrophobic or would have a hard time being able to stand still for long periods of time while filming and not being able to see anything that's going on, like our zombies on The Walking Dead that wear the contact lenses, you can't see anything. So we have little zombie helpers, which is really cute. It's like the blind leading the blind. So yeah, that would be a question that I would ask. So you're good. All right. Oh, big daddy bear.
Oh, no.
All right.
No, that's...
I wouldn't cast him for catching fire at all. Because of the aesthetic.
And as you're thinking of their casting, think of who would have the most time on screen in the back of your mind. Just keep that in mind.
That's not my job.
Just if it could have been.
Oh, right.
Who would have the most time on screen? Actually, after we're done with all of your casting, who would, if
It's this one right here. I could say that right now. Yeah. Because I could cast him as any of the poorer districts because he's so small. But would you be opposed to being shirtless on camera? Because we would put you in like little poor dungarees, like you're in agriculture and you're digging in the dirt and you can't afford clothes.
This is actually the 10th time I've heard him ask this story.
Seriously, we have to ask those questions because when they show up to set, they're all of a sudden like stripped down, you're wearing these holy jeans, and that's it. You're like, I didn't know I was going to be showing my chest to the world. I mean, we have to know that up front that you're okay with showing parts of your skin, because in reality, in these poor districts, they didn't all have a lot of clothing and they were showing a lot of skin. So I would just ask if you were okay with it, and once you say yes, you're going to sign a piece of paper, and that's the agreement. You, I wouldn't cast it all on that movie because you have the longer hair for a gentleman, and you don't have facial hair. But I might ask.
Cut the hair, sure.
No, maybe like the, what was the fishing, the Finrick's district form, the fishing, like being like one of the fishing workers. Because like as you got closer to the capital, I could hire people that were a little bit thicker or more robust because they were more hard labor, but they had better food.
It's called I'm not a vegetarian.
It's carbs and sugar that make us fat, but we'll go with
It's all
that.
good stuff.
All right, so come here, Mr. Tribute, Mr.
And
Agriculture.
you get a prize for being the one most likely to be on screen. You get a War Doctor action figure.
Ooh. Now here's another question. How old are you?
I'm 12.
You're 12. Oh, does that work best? Is this your first convention? It is. What was your first
I
convention?
went to
Tampa Bay Comic Con. So this is your second. Excellent. Well, welcome. Hey, this is
Are your parents here? Where's mom and dad? Okay, so here's what would happen if I cast your child.
Oh.
Because he's a minor, I would have to send a copy of the script to the one person in the state of Florida, that's where we are, right? Florida? The state of Florida that supervises scripts for minors in film and television in filming. So I would wait for her to approve the script because I say it's a her because it's a her in Georgia. She reads the script to make sure that there's nothing that would be controversial for a minor to be involved in, and then that becomes a whole set of separate agreements. You would have to be on set the entire time he was on set, and I could not work him longer than 10 hours, because that's a labor law. He would get paid twice as much as any of my actors over the age of 18 that were working in background. And that's really to kind of split the cost of I'm paying for you to be there and I'm really paying for him to be there.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and then I would have an educator on site at all times to keep the kids entertained, any minors. They're not teaching them anything, but they're there as a chaperone of sorts that during downtime when the camera crews are flipping the cameras or the lighting, and sometimes you have a couple of hours of downtime. They're there with activities for the kids that are age appropriate or whatever to keep them busy in case mom or dad are total stage parents. I love dealing with those. And really are more about keeping their kid together as opposed to keeping them entertained. You know what I mean? So that's a little added bonus of what the casting industry is like. That's why we hate casting children. Because it costs more money, first of all, and there's more paperwork.
What are screen parents normally like? Do you have any anecdotes?
They're the worst.
You said
Here's why, because everybody wants their child to grow up to be rich and successful to take care of us when we're old. It's really the goal. Well, we want them to grow up and have a better life than we had. It's an admirable goal. But when they think that their child is better than they are, if I'm hiring background extras, I don't care what their acting talent is, because I'm never going to hear them say a word on screen. I ran into trouble with an episode of Necessary Roughness. It was a spelling bee.
Yeah.
So we did have our background extras come up to spell words at the microphone, and we had to have them say those things, but those stage parents jumped on that like white on rice. Because the moment your child opens their mouth and speaks, or anybody speaks in casting, you are now elevated to day player status, which means your beginning pay for the day is $1,000.
Damn.
If you say 2 words, you're now a day player. So the moment those kids get up to the microphone and they were like, Michonne, M-I-C-H-O, those parents were like, cha-ching, cha-ching. Here was the loophole.
Okay.
There was no sound being recorded. The actor for the guest episode was like a little actress or whatever that has a moment during the spelling bee. She's sick or whatever. She's doing voiceover, so the camera is fading in and out of these kids in the spelling bee, and they're physically talking, but you never hear them when it played back on screen in the episode. So that was the loophole to not pay these parents for their kids getting up on the microphone and spelling, because it was never actually recorded on any type of microphone. So I had to listen to the
very
screen.
interesting. Well, are you working on anything right now? Is anything coming up?
Yeah, I was just cast in Constantine for NBC.
What's that?
Does anybody remember the Keanu Reeves movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is going to be better because it's actually based on the comic book.
It doesn't be better because Tony's in it.
Yeah, 'cause I'm in it. I was cast as a camera.
Sorry.
As a camera?
But I don't know what you're speaking of because it hasn't aired yet, so I have no idea. So, yeah, I'm really excited about that. It's, towards the end of the season.
So that's an actual spoiler.
But never happened. I didn't sign anything.
No.
I just don't want it to come back and bite me in the ass because I'd like to work on the show again.
But certain things can and you don't mind.
Oh, I don't mind talking about things that I've done, but things that haven't aired yet, I try to steer away from plot points because I still have a relationship with that casting agency.
Well, Constantine, do you hope that, well, I guess since it seems like it may not be a recurring role, do you think there's any chance it may if a writer?
Well, there are in most television shows, this doesn't really apply to film very much, but you have your core background extras. For instance, did anybody see that terrible movie that I did the casting for, oh God, the Googlers, the Google movie that had Owen Wilson in it and Internship. What a nightmare of a film. I have stories on that. But anyway, I cast what we call the Googlers and the Nooglers. It was like your older Google employees and your newer interns that the boys were. So they worked through the entire movie, and I had them in groups. And so I would work certain groups. I had 10 groups of each, and so when the casting came out, we sit down with the entire department, and when they break down the script, I know how many extras I need for each scene before the first day of filming. So that gives me my lead time to hire those actors and have them lined up and ready. So we do have recurring extras. It's like they worked for the entire 3 months of the film that we shot. I think the movie shot. Yeah, it was like a 9-10 week film. So they worked the whole time, and some of my actors actually went to San Francisco.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I met you recently at a very small event. I think it was about to expand past one ballroom.
Yeah.
Called Dragon Con.
Little tiny show.
Little tiny show.
Hey guys, come on in.
Tell us more. What is Dragon Con? How are you involved? What is that?
Dragon Con is North America's largest multi-faceted science fiction, fantasy, cross-genre convention because it includes horror, comics, anime, science fiction, fantasy, literature, writers. There's an independent film festival. There are performers. There are vendor halls, exhibitors, dealers, costume contests, some of the best costume contests that you could ever see unfold. Our show is just celebrating their 28th year, moving into our 29th show. And I've been with the company for almost 15 years, and we've seen our convention grow year to year. We had an attendance of over 62,000 people this year. So yeah, my show is pretty large, and that's why when they extended the invitation for me to work for them full-time a couple of years ago, I took the opportunity because Dragon Con has treated me so well over the years, and the show has grown so large that we have to work every day building into that show, because events like this one are not thrown together overnight.
Took me a week.
That's how long it's going to take you to recover from the show. So yeah, Dragon Con, I started as an unpaid volunteer, and I worked for a lovely woman. Her name is Regina Kirby. I worked for her in the green room, which is very sweet. Yeah. Oh, she's a nightmare, but that's great. You said that. I tell her.
Really?
No, I love her. She's fabulous. So Regina ran the green room for the celebrities. Dragon Con brings in about 400 different celebrities from all different genres to come to Dragon Con and interact with their fans. So we have a green room specifically set off to the side for them to get away from the fans and take a break and be able to eat and drink and hang out and relax. So I did that for 7 years.
Yes.
Then she left that department, took over main programming, so she would have been the person responsible for like designing this room and what programming was going to happen in this room throughout the day. We did that for 5 years for all of the buildings that Dragon Con is in. We're down to 6 buildings.
I'm so sorry.
It's a puzzle.
Yes.
Because the more people that you have, like if you have like somebody from Battlestar Galactica, do we have Battlestar Galactica fans? If I have one actor from Battlestar Galactica, I can put them in a room about this size. If you give me 6 leads from Battlestar Galactica, I have to have a room that holds 2,000 people. So it becomes that balancing act of how much of a draw are we going to look into a crystal ball and foresee that people are going to care about, because we have to program it in advance and we have to put it in a program book and we have to hope to God that we guessed correctly. Or, for instance, Firefly. We didn't know it was going to be a hit. Their show had already been canceled. The first year we brought the Firefly kids, and we brought Jewel, Nathan, and Adam. We immediately had to fix the programming schedule for the rest of the weekend because we put them in a room that couldn't even accommodate half of the people that were waiting in line to see them. So we were able to flip it with somebody that wasn't as popular. I don't remember, and even if I did, I would call them out on it. Because the goal is, no matter the level of guests that a convention brings, you want to put them in a room where they feel like, oh, this room is really full. These people really came to see me, as opposed to putting them in a room that's way too large for them, because then they think, oh, nobody cares.
It's always better to play to a packed, smaller room than a fairly filled, but not completely large room.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Because it's an awful feeling. I do a talk show at DragonCon called the Tony Lately Show. And I always bring in different guests from different genres to give them a chance to showcase and talk about them. And I had Sean Gunn, James Gunn's brother from Guardians of the Galaxy, and Gilmore Girls fame, that's what I love him from. So he was scheduled to be on my panel, but his flights were delayed. So I had planned the show in a very large ballroom because I thought a lot of people would want to come and talk to him about Guardians of the Galaxy. And yeah, it was maybe a quarter full.
Well, you've met so many celebrities. Has the magic gone away when you meet someone huge, or are you occasionally still starstruck?
I'm occasionally still starstruck for different reasons.
Oh, do tell.
The one person that made me stop speaking was Jason Momoa, for very obvious reasons.
You love Stargate Atlanta.
That's exactly
That's why. Obviously, that was a well-written character.
Absolutely, Ronan Dex and all those dreads. That is a man, and all of you will encounter those people in life that have a certain amount of charisma about them that oozes off of them. He has that in person. It was really uncomfortable to be in his presence, and I see that anytime I interact with him. I've done panels like this one-on-one with him, and people that get close enough, they feel his energy, and it's palpable. I mean, he just makes, because you're just like, is there anybody prettier, really? Okay. He's just a very, very sweet, I mean, well, he's not that sweet, but I mean, he's a really great guy. So he made me speechless, and that rarely happens because I just wasn't used to somebody throwing that much energy off of him in my direction, and I didn't know how to respond to it because I was like, oh, you're a really tall person, and he loves to stand in your personal space, which makes it even more uncomfortable. I didn't mind terribly, of course, but yeah, so that still happens because I'm just thrown. I mean, that happens to anybody. I'm sure, has anybody ever encountered somebody like that? That their energy was just so, that you just were kind of speechless for a moment, didn't know how to deal with it? Yeah, it's really weird and eerie because you're like, I got this, I can handle anybody. Yeah, no, that one. Jason Momoa, that was the one. But like this year, everybody would have assumed that my favorite part was doing an interview with James Gunn, the director of Guardians of the Galaxy. How cool was that? Did it in front of 2,000 people? But my big piece was being able to sneak in Phyllis Logan, who plays Mrs. Hughes on Downton Abbey.
How many, do we have any Downton Abbey fans in here?
So that was like my big triumph for the weekend, was she was the guest of one of our guests. She's married to the gentleman that plays Mr. Tibbs in the Pirates of the Caribbean movie. So he just brought his wife, and we didn't know who she was, and then I was able to crash a Downton Abbey fan panel and sneak her in the back, and she sat down and did a Q&A with everybody there that was there to talk about Downton Abbey. So that was my big...
It's a magic thing that can happen.
Oh, yeah, oh, absolutely.
Well, where do you see DragonCon going? In the next couple of years, how would you like to see the convention expand?
You know, I would like to see all conventions truly embrace their fandoms, like DragonCon tries to do, you're always going to have your haters. Everybody sitting here in the audience today has a critique about how this particular show is going. I promise you, those people know whatever critique you have, they've already heard about it and they will address it. So it's really that balance of doing what the fans want to create a better, richer, more awesome experience for the next time. The problem is these shows happen once a year. So it's not like you get the tried and true brand like a department store. If there's something going wrong with their marketing, they have a chance to correct it. You get one shot, and like if you don't do something successfully, you hear everybody complain about it for a full year. Then you hope to implement a plan that takes care of the problem that was brought up and affected so many people. But then there's just a new set of problems that spring up for the next show. And our biggest problem is growth. It's not a bad problem to have. I love my profit share. Well, what do you mean by it? Each year the show grows percentage-wise, and you want to still make it an intimate experience for them. Like those fans that were in that Downton Abbey panel when Phyllis sat down and they all just went, oh my God, that's Mrs. Hughes. Just nobody knew she was there.
So you want to still feel like an event by fans for fans, but not feel too corporate.
Correct.
It's huge now. It really is.
And DragonCon is owned by a family that are not impressed with the money that are offered to us in way of like sponsorship.
Yes.
They like sponsorship to matter and to reach and connect with somebody else that's homegrown. It's easy to cave into the movie studios like San Diego's Comic-Con. It's so close to LA, so of course all of the big movie studios are out pumping out their product to a captivated audience of 120,000 nerds. So of course you're going to have the entire cast of the Avengers sit on a stage. DragonCon's not interested in being Marvel's puppy because they want to sign a big old check to send all the kids down. We like it to keep being produced by the fans, because the moment you take corporate money, they want to design the show to fit them. And has anybody ever been to San Diego Comic-Con? What do you think?
I can tell you that you can be there for 5 days and see only 10% of the show. If that. It's too big.
It's a trade show.
And you need to plan like everything in advance if you want to see any of those movie actors.
And they don't flip their panel rooms. That's one of the things that I'm proud of that DragonCon does. Like if this panel was at DragonCon, once this panel was over, everyone would have to leave the room. And if you wanted to come into this room for the next panel, you would have to go into the back of the line that had already formed for whatever's coming in here next. San Diego Comic-Con doesn't do that. Once you get in the room, you can stay there all day. And you can get a little hall pass from the monitors on the doors to go to the restroom or go grab something to eat so that you can come back to your seat and you can leave your laptop or whatever. Now that sounds like a dream come true that you got in at 10 o'clock in the morning for the 4 p.m. Avengers panel. But what does it say to the people that are sitting up here from 10 to 4 looking out at fans that are on their laptops or on their phones?
And they simply
not
don't
paying attention because it's not the panel they came to see. You're not interested until Avengers comes on at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, and
so everything else is just bullshit. You're
and
just
the
like,
Avengers
oh,
folks-
yeah, great. Ooh, get it.
If they're waiting for Warehouse 13 and the Avengers are on stage, they don't care.
No, they don't care. And so it gives that mixed message that, like, when I'm looking out to the audience, there are always going to be people that are distracted. But when you see a sea of glowing faces because it's reflected from their tablets because they're not paying attention, because they're not there for it, that just to me is just kind of rude and cold almost. And it's not fair to the people that want to see the Avengers panel that there's no way in hell that they're going to get in at all. There's not a chance because the room is already full and has been full all day long. So those things like that are a little bit different that DragonCon does. We want everyone to have a fair shake. We don't have a VIP pass. That's ridiculous. Why would you take more money from someone just so that they can have front row privileges? Are you kidding me?
We keep getting asked here for a VIP pass.
Don't do it.
Everybody is a VIP here.
Yeah.
Everybody's important. Yeah, this is for all companions of the Doctor here at DragonCon. I actually learned a lot by your example, so.
Oh, well, thank you. So it becomes a separation of class the moment you instate a VIP. You have your haves and your have-nots. There will always be people that can just breeze through here and spend $2,000. There will always be those people, but when they take up all the front rows of everything and you're leaving out somebody that paid a general admission, that creates a discord.
It's true.
And you don't want to do that. Everybody's the same, and everybody should have a fair shake of going into the panels they want to see, lining up at the same time, getting whatever seat is available when they go in. It's just more fair.
Well, we have about 2 minutes left. Tony, do you have any... who enjoyed this panel with Mr. Gowell, Mr. Tony Gowell? Don't you have one more?
I do immediately after this one, but I think it's the
companions one, isn't it?
yeah, discussing the companions. Yeah.
Yeah, he's Mr. Gowell's going to be on a panel companions, assistance, or emotional crutches. So, and not controversial at all. So, any final words from these fine folks?
I just want all of you, wherever your fandoms take you, be proud of your fandoms. Don't be afraid if anybody doesn't like that fandom or that you want to wear your TARDIS dress and you're afraid somebody's going to make fun of it because it's weird or odd. Embrace your individuality. Everybody has a fandom. The group that are not sitting here today are sitting out at a football game because that's their fandom. And they cosplay those ridiculous painted chests and faces and stuff too. So they're doing the same thing that we're doing. So never let that get you down. So that's what I want to give you guys. Is we're all the same. We're all on this planet for a short while. So love each other. It's the only way you're going to be able to love somebody else.
And I see a Moxie Magnus shirt. And just for having that, you get a sign. Moxie was here last year.
Thank you.
Yeah, she comes to DragonCon every year.
Oh, we adore Moxie.
Is she here this time?
No, she was here last year. She'll probably be at the next one.
Perfect.
Usually comes out every other one. Fantastic host. Very good meeting.
I love it.
Love it.
Do we have something else to give away?
Well, yeah, of course. Well, you want to ask the question?
I'm going to ask a question. So, raise your hand if you remember the first movie you ever worked in from our discussion today. You with glasses. No.
Oh, wait, no.
Ernest goes to camp. Do you want to take a prize or you want to pass it on? All right, we'll go to somebody else. Let me ask another question.
Show off.
How many episodes of The Walking Dead did I work on?
All of them.
There's a little bit of me all over that show to this day. Ma'am. 9, correct.
And you get an incredibly bubble-wrapped mug.
That's at least 2 hours worth of popping. That's pretty amazing.
It's too.
Well, everyone, my name is Tony Gowell. We can do another panel, but I've got a table. You're welcome to stop by, and I'll be happy to discuss anything that you wanted to know about the show The Walking Dead or film in general. I've got lots of knowledge in this big old fat head of mine, so thanks everyone for having me.
And also, this is very important. If you'd like to be in the costume contest and registration, you need to go to registration immediately and sign up for the costume contest.
Where is it?
Registration at the place where you signed in as registration. And costume contest and closing ceremonies will be between 5 and 7 in this room. And you either go to registration or we're going to have a few of our companions going around, including Remington, which she just found out about a duty.
That's the best part.
I know.
Congratulations, you're ahead.
Yeah, I know. You're going to be walking around to those who are in Doctor Who cosplay saying, would you like to be in the costume contest over the next hour, and getting their name and a few categories and some things.
No, don't ask them. Tell them. You have to be in the costume contest.
Yeah.
You look amazing.
Like, oh my gosh,
You're totally going to win.
like, this is the best Down and Noble cosplay I've ever seen. They're like, I was doing the pamphlet. They're like, oh, I made I'm so sorry. So, yeah, don't have awkward moments like that. If you don't know what your cosplay as, it's a great costume, say like, man, that is very screen accurate. Just say that.
The Art of Bullshitting 101. Brought to you by Constantine. Thank you so much for having me here at this show. Thank you. It's such a delight.
And then you were a last minute choice, but he was on a couple
Right, that was the last minute choice.
No, yeah, he was Carolyn Brown put you on a couple of my panels at DragonCon. I had no idea who you are. You're on The Walking Dead. All I knew was that you were a great panelist and a lot of fun. And I said, like, please come to my convention. And it turns out that you've been in every single thing in the world. So thank you for joining us. And once again, a round of applause for Tony. And coming up next, we have Robert also discussing all of the of things he's made for Doctor Who from the year 2005 up until actually the last Kill the Moon was the last episode he worked on.